Welcome to Power Fridays Live, the channel that aims to make a difference in the world through transformation, spiritual growth, and for entrepreneurs. Our vision is to empower individuals to live their lives with purpose and to make a positive impact on the world. We believe that power and purpose are the driving forces behind success and fulfillment in both personal and professional life. Through our broadcast, we discuss business strategies and techniques that can help entrepreneurs achieve their goals and take their business to the next level. We believe that through sharing knowledge and experience, we can empower each other to succeed and make a difference in the world. Now here's our host, Janel Pulley.
Hi, good evening. Welcome to Power Fridays Live. I'm your host, Janel Pulley, and we're going to dive in tonight with an important conversation that intersects finance, health, and community support. With me this evening is my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Yolonda Brisbane. How are you doing this evening, Yolonda?
I'm great. Anytime I'm on Power Fridays Live, I am great because it's good information. It's a good vibe. So I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for being with me and being an awesome co-host. I do appreciate your time this evening. And I'm excited to have this conversation about financial health and awareness, taking a holistic approach, discussing like it's National Diabetes Awareness Month. And this is November 1st. And there's also National Family Caregivers Month and the National Stress Awareness Day. And those are just three topics that affect me personally. And I think affects us all in some sense of the topic of conversation. And I'm just excited to discuss these vital topics with you this evening. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. When you were mentioning the three topics, I did a quiet exhale, like a because it's a lot. And like you said, it does affect most of us in some shape, form, or fashion, whether it's yourself, a friend, family member. I think we can all speak to at least one of those topics, right? Diabetes, stress, all of those things. So I love the fact that you are addressing it from a holistic standpoint.
Yes, because it's not just, in the climate of America today, it's not just one issue. It's not just somebody's issue because, we, from a holistic standpoint, when it comes to diabetes, it's been in my life literally 40 years or more that my younger brother was diagnosed as a juvenile diabetic. And, to God be the glory, he's 49 years old. And I just, think back and, I lost a friend at 49 who was diagnosed later in life with diabetes. And so I'm looking at him, it's like, oh, Lord, please let him hit 50. And so he's taking care of himself. There's different technology that's available to him. And he goes to work every day. He understands the importance of exercise, what you eat, what you eat, when you eat, how much exercise you get. And I did have a girlfriend who reversed her diabetes and is successful. And she is like really happy. She was able to lose over 100 pounds as a result of that. Wow. And so she's like, oh, it can be done. It can be done. I did it. So she shared with me her story of how she was able to, reverse the effects of a high A1C level, I should say. And it's lower into a more normal range now.
Yeah, that's beautiful. There are quite a few people that have reversed situations. And a lot of people say that it's not possible. Once you have something, that's it. Once you're on medication, you'll never come off. There are some things that doctors do prescribe, and they'll tell you that you will always be on something because of the history. They don't want to risk you coming off of medication completely and then something happening. But, when I mention you taking a holistic approach, of course, for me, you're a financial guru, right? That's your background, that's your specialty, especially around insurance. So whenever I'm on with you, Janel, it's not just co-hosting. I'm here. It's a classroom for me, right? Because I'm constantly learning with and under you. So, you being that financial expert who addresses insurance at multiple levels, I want to speak about that also. When we talk about prioritizing our health and being aware that financial priority is important too, because when you do have certain conditions, it's important to be aware of what your insurance may cover, right? It's
Yes.
important to keep money aside. We sometimes think of an emergency fund for that daily living expenses, but you have to include your condition if you have one. So that would be medication, that supplies, whatever it might be, co-pays. A lot of times we're not fully aware of what we are required to pay, right?
Hmm.
So I know we're going to dive a little bit into that more because we don't touch any topics without touching insurance, because you're very persistent about people being informed and educated. So I'll stop there, but I did want to say that we're prioritizing health. We have to prioritize that insurance as well, because
Right.
that, we're kind of doomed.
I can agree with that. And it even goes deeper than insurance, right? It goes into like planning and planning your life, planning your paycheck, and many people live paycheck to paycheck and manage a chronic health condition like a diabetes. And it can be financially challenging. I know the impact that it had on my family all those years. And even with my brother today, we're coming up on open enrollment for some companies and corporations. You're able to now go in and say, hey, I want to do a health savings account, or I want to do a flexible savings account. Well, how much should you give in out of your paycheck towards those benefit for the pre-tax benefit that it'll deposit money in, where you can get access to managing your illness if you were to have one, and over throughout the course of the year. It's like, well, how much do I need? Do I max out on it? How much? Because if I max out on it, then you just do the math. 3,000 divided by
Right.
12, and that's how much is coming out of your pre-tax dollars. And then of course with some flexible spending accounts, you have to spend it all, use it or lose it. And
Yes.
then some rolls over depending on the time frame. But speaking to your HR person, they can't tell you these things. You
Mhm.
need to speak to a licensed professional to have those conversations when it comes to your paycheck, your money, your benefits that even you're getting through your employer. Because
Right.
I know I run across a lot of people who say, oh, you can insure me. I have diabetes. I say, yes, I can.
Mm.
I can get you health insurance outside of your job. I recommend you having health insurance outside of your job, because when you have no job for whatever reason, if it's through no fault of your own, especially, then you're going to need your own life insurance plan.
Sure.
But their mindset is like, oh, I'm working a job so I can have insurance. So, the health insurance piece and the life insurance piece, because they don't think they can afford it outside of their job. So, there's a lot of different ways families can budget, for the healthcare costs associated, with diabetes. And so I just, want to share that too, because like to your point that you said earlier, you want to be able to set aside funds for medications, your doctor's
Absolutely.
visits and any other like necessary supplies. And your health is a great emergency. As you can tell, I'm not at my optimal voice tonight.
You sound good though.
Yes, thank you. And I had a health scare last week and led me to the urgent care, led me to pay my $50 deductible, and led me to, paying for medication. So of course I was able to swipe that flexible spending account card, because
Mm.
although I didn't plan for it, I planned for it. Right.
I like that.
You don't plan to get sick, but
I like that. See what I'm saying? When I hang out with you, I'm always getting some jewels. Let me write that down.
yes,
You keep talking. I'm gonna just write this down so I don't
yeah,
forget.
you don't plan for it, but you plan for it, right? And looking at the different health insurance options that cover, diabetes management can make a significant difference, because I have a scale that one of the companies sent to me through one of my benefits through my health insurance, and it's something that they are able to do a coaching for me. on a monthly basis.
Okay.
It's a benefit, and of course, a lot of benefits are tangible, and it really helps me manage my weight. And although I'm not diabetic, it helps me with the weight
Sure.
management. And there's other opportunities that may some people may find out with their employer through their insurance that that the insurance offers as a benefit to help them manage their chronic conditions. And I was just buying baby formula the other week, and the lady she's like, "Well, what kind of insurance do you have?" And she was trying to help me get money back and get a check from my insurance
Oh, nice.
company to reimburse me for all this money we're
Sure.
spending on baby formula. So
I
I was
love it.
like, yeah. So people at your drugstore, they can support you and help you as well.
Oh, yeah.
And that was really a great thing. I was like, oh, I love, shopping here. Because
Right.
every time I've gone to this one pharmacy, I will rename nameless because, my husband
We're
works
not
for the
endorsing anyone.
competition and we're not getting
Got it.
paid to
That too.
sponsor that drugstore.
Right.
The pharmacy, I should call it a pharmacy, not drugstore, but pharmacy. And it was just like they're now giving you so much value when you go to the shopping, when you're going to the pharmacy, because it's very important that your health is your number one. Is if your health, like you shared with me, if you don't have your health together, you don't have anything together.
Yeah, we're doomed. Janelle, speaking about diabetes awareness, a lot of people don't realize that diabetes is one of the leading factors to kidney disease also.
What?
Yes. There are two major people have kidney disease for a number of different reasons. Some are by birth. There may be something that's genetically present that will make someone more susceptible to kidney disease of some sort. When people hear kidney disease, they just think it's just one thing, and it's not. There are multiple reasons. So a lot of times people have kidney disease that catches up with them later in life because of something that was present in birth. And a lot of times it's not detected. So when you take kidney disease and you have, if you take hypertension and diabetes, and if it's uncontrolled, chances are that person will have chronic kidney disease and may eventually go on dialysis or some other form of life-saving treatment that is permanent unless you get a kidney transplant. So you may wonder why I know so much. Kidney disease runs in my family, right? I work for a national organization that deals with kidney disease. It's about empowerment and education, but I never like to go without sharing that with people, because a lot of times the doctors will not tell you that. They're starting to make people more aware now, but if you think about it on a historical level, when do we hear about kidney disease? You only hear about it if someone you know has it.
Right.
Right? We hear about cancer and all the other things. But I want to share that because especially in the Black and Brown community, kidney disease is prevalent because diabetes is prevalent in our community, right? And then hypertension is also. So I just want to share that because it is Diabetes Awareness Month. I love you, Janelle, because again, your holistic approach is right on point. It's the finances, the insurance, and the health. So again, just to emphasize, you mentioned the AC1, right?
The A1C, yes.
A1C. I said AC1. A1C. It's important that when you go to your doctor, ask for your lab results. A lot of times the doctor will tell you your cholesterol is high, your blood sugar level's high, your blood pressure's high. Make them break those numbers down, because sometimes they'll tell you you're borderline. But if you're borderline, where do you cross over that line? And that's where you start doing the preventive work, because one step over that borderline, you're now facing another illness that could be, it's life-changing.
And costly.
Yeah, very costly, very costly. And, just speaking about the insurance, it's important to know what your policies cover. How many people know what the policy covers? Janelle, I don't know. I don't know until it's something I need to get done. Then I start looking through the book, right?
Right. Well, it's not a common practice, Yolanda, that we're gonna, be up on our insurance company and we're scrolling through and this doctor, how do you pronounce their name?
Right.
Oh, they're specialized. Where did they go to school?
Yeah, and then we assume because we have coverage, we're safe.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out, oh, it doesn't cover this; it only covers this. So take the time if you have a chronic condition, and make sure you mentioned in a conversation we had before, making sure your plan covers those things.
And yes, that is so important because whenever the open enrollment season now, my husband just finished his with his company, and then other companies are rolling out through their open enrollment now. Of course, there's the national open enrollment with America, and it's like you have these different options, and people look at price, and they don't look at coverage; they look at price.
Value.
And price drives the coverage.
Teach it, Janel.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. And from my perspective, I share with you, you have it's like a gold, silver, bronze, maybe. I'm not, I'm just breaking it down like that. So you have the top tier, the middle tier, and then the lower tier. But a lot of people go for what they can afford to go for when they actually, their condition needs them in the middle tier or the higher tier, because oftentimes you have to meet a certain deductible, and then you have to meet certain criteria, and you really want to look at, well, what was my picture last year versus this year, or my history, to know, okay, well, where should I be? Because a lot of people I don't get sick. Well, if you're a healthy person, then I would say you don't need to have insurance through your job if you're a healthy person, because there's other insurances outside of your job that, can provide you a nice benefit.
Right.
And you can save that money. People just, don't realize that, that you don't have to go with your insurance provider through your job to have insurance benefit.
Right.
But I would say if you do have a critical or cancer policy available through your insurance, through your business, through your company, that you take it, you use it, you pay that premium, whatever they say it is. Because I have had 2 people in my life who was diagnosed with a chronic illness and did not have that critical care insurance that would have paid them a check for being diagnosed. And then the other young lady, she ended up, having developed cancer, unfortunately, and God bless her, and it was treatable, and they didn't pay out, but then it came back.
Okay.
And they're like, oh yeah, we'll give you some money now. And of course, we know that popular.
You get paid to be sick. How about that?
Hey,
it's such a game. Oh boy.
This game is changing, and it's changing. You can now get a check if you get sick with the life insurance company.
Yes.
They have a policy where you don't have to die to get the payout on the life insurance.
Or if you have surgery, if you have a certain surgical procedure, you're eligible for, a check. So, thank God for that. And that means they have enough people that are healthy and insured that can make up those differences. It's so much we could get into with this. And I just want to, again, on my part, emphasize the importance of holding the doctors accountable also. When you're in that office, that's your time. That is your time to ask questions. And a lot of times we do not. We just sit there and we nod, okay. But you can't explain what they just said when you get home. You just hear the key things: blood pressure, cholesterol, sugar. What are those levels? There's another level. This is a little bit off topic, but not that I want people to be aware of. And that's the creatinine levels. That tells you your kidney function.
Oh, wow.
No one talks about that.
Nobody.
Chances are, if you have diabetes or hypertension, that level is off. And that will dictate where you are with kidney function.
Oh, wow. I never knew that.
The doctor will not mention it at all. They just don't. I don't care where you're going. Unless you have a kidney situation, they will talk about the blood pressure and the diabetes, but they won't talk about that level. So that's why it's called crashing into dialysis, because people have no clue. I thought I had diabetes but I was managing it. Well, I know my pressure was high, but I was taking medicine.
And all the time your kidneys were deteriorating.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that goes to my point with regarding my friend, with her saying that she reversed her diabetes. She's on dialysis for the rest of her life as a result. And she took responsibility in our conversations. She took 100% responsibility for her condition. And she said to that doctor, yeah, in the beginning, you have this denial phase. She wasn't doing what the doctor recommended until it got to the point where her kidneys were failing, that she took a look at and said, hey, I want to live.
Yeah. And that's the level I talked about. The doctor never told her about that level. Guarantee you.
No. And it's not something we would know to ask about, because that's the thing that I was just talking to an attorney the other day, and she's like, do you have any questions for me? I was like, I don't know what questions I should have for you, because I'm not an attorney. I'm not the doctor. So now I ask the question to the doctor, what questions should I have for you? And therefore, then they open up.
That's flipping it.
Well,
what questions should I have for you? I like that.
Yeah, that, I need to put that in the chat. Please ask the doctor. Ask your doctor.
Janel, hold on, pause for a minute. We're going to change it from the chat. We're going to change that from the chat to either the treasure chest or the jewelry box. So when you drop in jewels, you put them in that jewelry box. Okay.
Yes. Ask your doctor, what questions should I have for you about my health? Because they ask you if you have any questions. Well, I didn't go to school for this. I didn't go to school, like you went to school, and I don't know. And I'm coming to you as a practitioner so that you can tell me what's going on and how you can read the blood levels. And one of the things I will say, your blood levels are read differently with different doctors.
Yeah. And
different doctors use different methods to source a problem that you may have. And you have to advocate for that. Last week we had Brian DJ Cut Nelson on, and he was diagnosed with cancer and form of, and I looked it up, and it's treatable, but then it's like, who wants to hear the big C?
Sure.
And I was just like, but he had these ailments, and until he went to a specialist or until he went back to the emergency room several times, they never caught it. As many times he had trips to the emergency room talking about how much pain, and obviously, so someone finally caught it just in time, literally. Like a blessing. And it's just like, here you live. And like you said, I don't know to look at the creatine level, because if they tell you it's all normal, but it's in a normal high range, then they don't tell you to, hey, we need to look at this a different way.
Right.
But I do share, and of course, in this climate today, we have access to the internet. A lot of MayoClinic.com.org or whatever is out there. But I go to a holistic, like chiropractic type establishment that concentrates on wellness. And when I have my blood work from the regular medical doctor, I take it to them to review it, and they point out things that the medical doctor doesn't point out.
Yeah. Yes. A lot of times the medical doctors really don't want to have the time for you. They really don't. Do you have any questions? They're really hoping you don't. It's not that, some of them may become desensitized. And it's not everyone. There are doctors who want you to ask questions. They want to spend time with you, but there are doctors who will not. I call it medical arrogance. I had a doctor tell me once, you don't have any questions.
Wow.
You don't have any questions. And I looked at him, and it was pertaining to my mom, and I had a choice to battle him in that moment and say, yes, I do have questions, and these are them, or to sign my mother out of the hospital against medical advice and get her to a better location. There was an option that I had. And the decision was already for me to have them disconnect her from whatever she was connected to, get a wheelchair, get someone to get her down to my car, and transport her to another hospital. So We have to be careful of that. And if a doctor, I know this may be a little bit off, but it's connected.
It's connected.
A doctor rushes you, take a pause. That's a nice way for you to acknowledge and let the doctor know, I know you're rushing me. Because you're old. You know how much money they get just for us to walk in the door?
I saw the bill.
Hey, come on. Just for you to walk in.
Just
for you to walk in the door, they're paid, ching ching. So get your money's worth.
I got my copay done, and I got my what that percentage is that I got left over to pay it. But whenever I saw that price, I was like, I'm grateful to only pay this amount based on having insurance benefits, because if I didn't have insurance benefits, oh buddy,
it's very expensive. And I always bring up the male perspective, or
it's November. It's
November. So what does that mean?
For the male, Movember, for the males and their health.
Exactly. So with that being said, what I love is, especially our men, you have more of them taking control of their health.
Yes.
They're making sure their women are taking care of their health. Yes. And that's what's up. We talked once about insurance being sexy. Health is sexy also. And when you have a man that takes care of himself physically and mentally, like holistically, that's a person who's going to make sure you're on point also. It used to be the woman always, honey, did you do this? Honey, did you do that? Did you take your medication? Did you go to your appointment? Now the world is different. Men, they switch the game up. Men are going to get manicures and pedicures. Men are rocking pink. So all of that macho stuff has gone out the window. There's a new macho out there. And they're asking their women, have you had a breast exam? Right? Because those are your breasts, but they're my breasts too. So let's take care of them together. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. So I just want to shout out our men who are taking hold of their health and holding us accountable.
Definitely, because, we talk about, to your point, about the accountability for the advocating for yourself and your health is very important. And you're not going to see everything about you when you look in the mirror. When you look at me, you see something different. And this woman, I'll never forget for the rest of my life, that she looked at me and she says, you look stressed. You need to pull back. And I could see stress in your face. And I think, I'm not sure totally what I was going through that phase of my life. But if she hadn't seen that stress in my face, because I look at my pretty face every day, I didn't see what she saw.
Yes, come on, queen.
That I was stressed. And even though I may have felt stressed, I was pushing through. And I didn't see it as stress. I just saw it as, this is what I need to do. This is what I got to do. I got to pay my bills. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to go here. And my job demands me to be here, there, everywhere. I create my own schedule. Oh, I got this going on. I got that going on. But it was all, impacted.
Overload.
I didn't know I was overloaded until this woman pulled me to the side and said, you look stressed. And she could see.
God.
And I'm here to this day because of her.
That's why I said, thank God. And we have to, let me exhale on that. We have to be mindful, because we're so used to being on overload. We don't even know we're on overload. And, I come from a place of vulnerability. When we're on these podcasts, I'm going to bring it, share it from everything I have. I recently had a meltdown. I felt it coming on. I felt it because National Stress Day is when, Miss Janel?
It's later this month. There's the stress week. Stress awareness week in November.
Right. So, we're talking about that also tonight, right? So we could just move into that. Stress will take you out. Stress will take out your hair. Stress will change your skin. Stress will change your relationship. Stress will get you fired, because you're going to show up in ways you should not be showing up. And the reason why I said, thank God that it showed in your face, a lot of times we don't show it. And you know what the people around us say? You got it all together. Oh, you're such a strong person. Oh, you handle so much. But your body's not, your mind is not. So somewhere it's going to show up. And I felt it coming, and I was taking a shower, and the tears and the meltdown came with the water from the shower. And I stayed
Mhm.
in that moment. I had to let it out. And I realized your stress level is very high. And you
Mhm.
need to just take a minute and pause and get it together. And we have to do that for ourselves and one another. So I'm glad you said that. And I wanted to just move into that National Stress Day. Do we even know that exists? How many people know? Well, for a lot of people, that's every day. Like, what you mean? That's
Right,
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Some of us let it go on Sunday because it's the Lord's day, right? Every
right.
day is his day, and every day is stress day. So how do you manage it? That's why some people stay in the gym. It's
Mhm.
not just about the physicality, it's the mental also.
Exactly. It certainly is, and I'm glad that you brought that up because financial stress can affect your mental health. To your point
Whew.
there, and there's different strategies that individuals can employ. Have the dealing with health related stress because there again stress is tied to diabetes as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I found
Yeah.
out from my heart doctor of all people, right?
Mm,
He told me, stress, your A1C is higher because of stress. Well, what are you
mm,
doing about your stress?
mhm, mhm.
And we need to reduce the anxiety. And then, of course, oftentimes the stressors could be financial,
That's
unfortunately.
one of the major stresses for people,
Hmm.
financial. What else do we have to be stressed about? Sometimes it's health. There may be things going on in relationships, what have you. But a lot of times, I would put financial at the top, unless someone's dealing with a medical crisis of some sort.
Hmm.
Financial, especially today, everything's very expensive, right? People are
Yeah,
robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's rough,
yeah,
it's rough. And a lot of people are one paycheck away from being homeless.
yeah. They
A lot
are.
of folks truly are. If you don't have family or friends to rely upon, that's a whole nother podcast, Janelle, but it's important to bring it out here also, the stress related to finances. And if you don't plan, right, or prepare, it'll hit you. It'll hit
Like a
you.
ton of bricks, as they
Yeah.
say. Like a ton of bricks.
I've had financial stress before. Look, you see, I started sweating when you talk about financial.
Who has it? Who has it? I have
Come
too.
on.
I'm looking
Right?
at it's I'm like, oh my gosh, I was looking at TikTok and I shouldn't have been on. Of course, I was looking at Instagram, TikTok, or
No
whatever,
judgment. No
and
judgment.
the woman was asking questions. She says, "How many of you been scared to look at your bank account? Raise your hand." I swiped.
My
I did.
bank account is scared to look at me.
I swiped.
Oh, here she comes again. She's ruining
She's like,
our
"Raise your hand."
reputation.
Swipe. How many of y'all raise your hand if you
Mm,
look at your bank account? You
wow.
scared. Whoop, let me whoop, swipe.
Right. Right.
But we don't need to swipe when it comes
No,
to we
we
don't need
don't.
to swipe when it comes to that. But that
That's
was
it.
just like, oh my gosh. But she's like,
Yeah.
raise your hand, like raise your hand if
Raise it high.
raise it high. If you stressed over your financial situation and
Hmm.
you scared to look at your bank account, raise
Right.
it. Take. I was like,
Yeah. But you
okay.
know what? God bless the people that take the time to invest in themselves, to make sure their financials are on point, their insurance. There are people that have it together.
Oh yeah. Oh
There
yeah.
are
I talk
people
to
that
them every day.
truly have it together. They're not perfect individuals, but they've taken the steps to have it together. And you got to applaud that. You have to
Yes.
applaud it because it's discipline. They're no different than us, but they're disciplined and they think before they do. They think before they do. Are you doing the Embody program? Or is
Well,
this the program?
it all starts in the mind, as we
Mm.
all know. It all starts in the
Right.
mind. And I'm not doing the Embody program at this time, but I read everything. I read those emails every day for
Yeah.
my brother,
There was
and
a piece on
it.
instant gratification and
Uh-huh.
delayed gratification. And
Hmm.
I think that's where a lot of us run into a problem. We want instant gratification. And if we delay that reaction to do it or get it now and delay the gratification, there goes the reward. there goes the reward. Sometimes we don't stop. We just want it now. We want it now. We want it now. But we're not thinking about putting the money aside for the co-pays or the supplies. We're not thinking about not spending that money right now, but going into the account or investing of some sort. We want instant. It's a microwave mentality, right? And it affects our health. It affects everything. Especially Black and Brown Americans. We have to be so careful.
Extra.
We have to be so careful because the deck is not stacked in our favor, but it can't be the excuse.
It cannot. Because there's too many people who have overcome and who are doing very well in their lives, very well financially, very well with their health. And there is no reason not to have what you really desire in your heart. Yeah. And your heart's desire, because, you know, like I said, with that one young lady, when it got to that point, in her heart, it desired to be healthier. In her heart, it desired to feel better. And, you know, as a result, you know, of not taking care of yourself for so long, then it led to, you know, having to be on support to maintain for the rest of your life. But love yourself. That self-care is so important. To just look in the mirror and say, I love you, I love you, I love you every day that you live. It is so important.
You know what? It's loving yourself differently too, right? Sometimes we are conditioned to love ourselves a certain way. Love yourself and go get some chocolate. Love yourself and go buy some new clothes. Get those shoes you want. It's a lot of times material. And we have to love ourselves deeper and differently, right? Oh, you got a good test score. We're going to go out to eat. Oh, you got a good test score. Let's stop and get ice cream. Find something different, because then we're instilling those habits in a child to count on food and shopping sprees to be the reward. You know, oh, you did that. Let's invest some money with you in this insurance policy with Miss Janel. All right. Let me put this money over here in a separate account for a medical emergency or what have you. It's like loving ourselves, you know, differently. Like, oh, wow, you did that? Go hit the gym for an extra half hour versus going to buy that dress or whatever it might be. You do those things too, but we have to change the way we are, the mindset. We have to change our mindsets because, my God, you see some people living to be 97 years old, 100 years old. It's like, what did they do? How did they eat? Right? I mean, some things are genetic. Some people more are genetically inclined to live longer. They have certain genes, and it's true. But for the most part, they lived a certain way.
Lifestyle.
They
I'll never forget the Delaney sisters that lived together. That lived together. Yes. And I was like, two women never, you know, that had a lifestyle, did very well for themselves in their life. Yeah. But took care of themselves and took care of one another. And when you spoke earlier about loving yourself and taking care of yourself, and it's National Caregivers Month, we oftentimes want to make sure that we give care to others. But as we've talked about, and as you've heard many times, you put the mask on yourself first. And I did lose a family member who was a caregiver twice. They were the people who passed before the people who they cared for passed. Wow. And it was like, how is that possible when they did so much for that life of that other person to thrive? And so we want to give a special shout out to the caregivers this month as well, because you know, truly commendable, you know, truly a blessing. And, you know, we're dealing with that now in my family. And I was like, but I learned about long-term care insurance 20 years ago. You know, I had a friend, she's like, oh yeah, you want long-term care? And it's like, oh, I'm just 30. I'm 30. I'm in my 30s. What do I need it for? Had I got a policy when I was in my 30s for long-term care, it would have been a lot less expensive than at 50. Yes. For that same policy to say, hey, this is how I want to live in my old age. I want somebody to come into my house to take care of me. I want the Cadillac of nursing homes or
Yes.
whatever it is. You know, I don't, and even knowing that I would have a long-term care insurance policy, I would know that, oh, they can't take my house. They can't take and liquidate me to put me in a nursing home because I can have enough money in this policy to pay for my care.
See that right there, as we say that part, right?
Yeah.
I know someone, a family member, who was able to get his wife everything she needed in the house because they planned. You understand? They traveled, they did a lot of different things, but their daily lifestyle wasn't so lavish. They accomplished the American dream, but they were strategic, they planned. And that's a beautiful thing when you can be at home when you need to be versus being someplace outside of the home because you don't have it. You don't have to have the money. You just have to have planned properly for such a time. And some people say, well, what if you don't need it? It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Say it again.
Yeah, that's so critical. And my God, I had to exhale a few times tonight, girl, because this is real stuff. We talk about real talk. This is real talk that we have to have more of.
Yes. And I so appreciate you having this conversation with me, Yolanda, because, I know that there's a lot that you're dealing with in all of the knowledge that you have regarding diabetes and how it relates to the kidneys and, the health relationship that you have in caring for and loving and supporting other people and, just fostering like a more informed community. So I want to acknowledge you for that, for offering your invaluable insights tonight, because, it's so important for us to raise that awareness for the caregivers, to support them, for the people with diabetes, for people to know how to, manage their stress effectively. So I really, really, truly appreciate you and thank you, for having this conversation with me and sharing your stories, your personal stories, the stories of, of the people, that you love, that are near and dear to you, and also educating us on how to be an advocate for our own health.
Yeah,
because that's where the rubber meets the road.
That's important. Let me tell you, I'm very big on advocacy, and thank you. See, I'm learning at the same time. I'm at a phase in my life where I'm evolving again, and there were bad habits that I took on, and I'm reversing them. So that's why I love to be present and share also, because, we're learning and growing together. But advocacy is the greatest thing and the greatest form of liberation. And I can't emphasize enough. If you don't know what the doctor's talking about because they're using medical jargon, tell that doctor to speak to you in layman's terms. I remember my mom was hit by a car many years ago, and I was in college, and they started telling me about a fractured tibia and a fibia. I looked at the doctor. I said, yo, doc, what does that mean? Give it to me so that I can understand it. And my mom looked at me, and he looked at me. He goes, okay. And he broke it down. So now it makes sense to me. But, a lot of times we're afraid to speak, or we're taught not to speak. Shut up, don't say anything. You'll look foolish. Well, I look foolish when I'm sick and dying. So advocacy is the most powerful thing. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be educated. But if you advocate, you'll get the information. And I don't play when it comes to, medical personnel. Sometimes they'll intimidate you. We're talking about also caregivers. I've been caretaking for my mom for a while now, and several times, she had to be in a nursing home. They would call me from the hospital and say, oh, your mom's ready for discharge. We're sending her today. And I would say, you're sending her where? Oh, we're going to send her back to the nursing home. We're going to do this. I said, no, you're not. Well, what is the problem? I said, I didn't know. So I didn't get to plan to travel with her. And she doesn't travel by herself. And they would really try to harass me and tell me she had to leave. And I would let them know she's not a Jane Doe. I'm her daughter. And you're going to allow me to plan properly. You're not going to transport her by herself because she had a stroke and she can't speak. right? And I would always let my mom know, if they threaten you that they're going to do XYZ, or your daughter didn't show up, you know what the deal is. And she will look at me and smile. I'm always going to be there, but it's going to be on our terms. I'm going to always travel with you. So you could push back also. You could be nice and, courteous and professional, but you have to push back sometimes. Advocacy is not a joke, because one missed opportunity to speak up for yourself could be to your detriment. Remember, they're practicing medicine.
Mhm.
They're medical practitioners, practice. So as much as they are experts, they're also learning new things each day. So don't forget
Yes.
that. They're medical practitioners. Sometimes you know more at a different level because you're experiencing it, and they're counting on you to tell them. So it goes hand in hand. So yeah, advocate, use your voice.
Well, thank you so much. If that's not a better final words to leave with, I don't know what is, Yolanda,
Thank
because
you.
your voice is your superpower. And don't let, like you said, the people who are in that medical field have MD behind their name, I like to say, intimidate you. It's very important. I will never forget. I was in with my dad in the hospital, and he managed his own diabetes at home, and he knew how much insulin he would give himself on a daily basis. And then the doctors who's practicing were trying it out, like, oh, we'll give you this much at this time and this much at this time. I was there with him overnight, and he would plummet at nighttime. And I thank God for that nurse, because he saved my dad's life night after night after night, because he knew. And when he told my dad he could refuse that medication,
Mhm.
I didn't know. I was like, he could refuse to take that. He could refuse that, whatever that doctor had prescribed. He could refuse that medication, and
Wow.
that did it. He never plummeted, because he says, no, I don't think I need that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the doctor came in talking, and then it was like, look at the results of what you prescribed. He would
Mm-hmm.
literally, like, his sugar would drop overnight, like plummet, and then they'd have to come in, and I was there
Wow.
every night. And the next day, it was just like, I didn't. We had a conversation. He had a conversation with the doctor, and basically let him know, well, this is what I do normally, and this is how my body is normally, and this is what's been happening. So
Mhm.
I trust you as the doctor to fix it.
Right.
And yeah, it got fixed all right. with
Thank God for that nurse.
Yeah, thank God for that
Thank God
nurse.
for the nurse. There's a church that I go to in Brooklyn, New York, and the pastor talks about saints in Caesar's palace.
Hmm.
And those are those doctors and nurses, or could be in the post office. Those people are that person that will pull your coat and go against what their norm is. If the norm is to just push you out the door, that person takes extra time. When I mentioned signing my mom out against medical advice, there was a doctor that pulled my coat, and he said, they didn't tell you they're not going to do anything else for your mom. He said, get her out of here. He said, I have a friend at this other hospital. Because of who your mom is to me, I will call in a favor. And if he says he could take her, you're going to have to move her right away.
Well, thank God for angels.
He didn't have to tell me that. And I told him, I will never tell that you gave me that advice.
Mm-hmm.
So those are saints in Caesar's palace, because thank God for the nurse that told your dad you can refuse it. We don't know that.
Had no idea.
Yeah, we don't
And from that point on, he stopped plummeting at night, and I was
know
just like,
that.
wow. Because what we don't know,
That's right.
and especially about some of what goes on in the healthcare world. But I highly recommend speaking to a licensed professional when it comes to your health insurance benefits. And I highly recommend, like you suggested earlier, to advocate for your health.
Okay, Janelle, let's keep it real. I have a
Yeah.
question for you.
Uh-huh.
You are, I have to use this word, and it's a term of endearment, a beast of a woman when it comes to financial advice, especially around insurance. So I am not leaving here tonight without asking you to say who you are, what you do and what you can offer people who right now in this moment are looking to change their status around life insurance policies, what have you. Who tell them who you are and what you do. We're not going to underplay that. And go on.
Well, Yolanda, I appreciate you for that. You know, I love you, girl. I love you, lady. And so, you know, I'm a person who's a licensed professional in the state of Georgia and many states. I'm licensed and I've been practicing. I've been a licensed insurance agent since 2012 in the property and casualty world and life and health world. And I educate people. I'm a financial educator. I help people plan their life financially in a sense where I'm not a securities advisor. I'm not a financial planner by any means. I'm a financial educator who helps people plan their budgeting, their savings, taking a holistic look at the paycheck that they receive, and to a person who help them analyze their benefits that they receive from their job. So you can say that I'm a benefits analyst in that way, because I will make recommendations or I'll explain to you, this is what your company is offering to you with this benefit, because I am able to, because of the education that I have to have ongoing, the continuing education, I have to know about these things. And person who also, you know, helps people establish that long-term care insurance, to look at the different options and opportunities they have when it comes to nursing homes, when it comes to planning for the future in that regard. So I'm the person who helps you put that together and just really create a menu for your life and to have this lifestyle. And in my book, Money Just Flew Out the Window, How to Create a Relationship with Wealth, Living from Paycheck to Paycheck, I design certain options. Like, you may not want to buy it outright. You may want to rent it versus buying it. So I look at different strategies for people, depending on their life, depending on what they want, desire, their short-term goals, their medium-term goals, their long-term goals. So I help people reach their goals when it comes to their financial future as well. So that's who I am, you know, like what I do and what I love to do. And in a short sentence, like, help people like grow their money, you know, protect it, you know, and save it, and make sure that the people who want to take everything that you've worked hard for in your life, that they don't get that opportunity to do that. So I help prevent that from happening with a lot of families. And I appreciate the families that give me the opportunity to have that conversation, to, you know, allow me to help them do that, so that they can say that they have something that they left, a legacy, a real legacy, not just the conversation about a legacy for their families. Because, you know, as the Bible says, you know, I always like to say, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And that's the scripture lesson that, you know, I live by.
I love it.
You know, and I'm just a seed in the ground, and your money, you know, can just be that seed in the ground right now today. And it could definitely, you know, grow, because it takes time. You have to water it. You have to spend time. You have to, you know, not swipe whenever they say, did you look at your bank account? Yeah, I'm that person. Did you look at your bank account? You know, did you look at your bank statement? Did you look at all your statements to go through to see how much you're paying in interest a month and how much you're paying in your minimum payment? Now they have passed a law to where they have to explain it to you and tell you how many months it's going to take you to pay it off, and how much interest that you're going to pay it in this process. So I'm that person who will encourage someone to look at those things when it comes to their statements, and look at opportunities to say, hey, you know, you can get that K-cup for that Keurig machine that says that cup coffee that you go to that store, that restaurant, or that drive-through that you get all the time. You know, they have that in a K-cup that you can put it in your Keurig machine.
Yes, they do, and it tastes just as good.
it tastes just as good. So I'm that person. That's what I do. And that's the message, that I share with loving people, with families, with people who really want to make a difference and change the trajectory of their future, of their financial future, so that their financial makeup won't look like that EKG machine. We don't want their financial picture looking like the EKG machine. So I help prevent that from being that way for a lot of families. So I would love to help anyone to, share their information with me when they get to, not before they get to that point. And I've helped some people get out of debt and look at opportunities to really say, hey, focus on what your value system is for your life. If you value family so much, like you mentioned earlier, you may not want to go out and celebrate and, kudos for your A to get this, because we just think about all the money that you got for making an A, and then you went and bought an ice cream cone. Just think, if you took half of that money and put it in the piggy bank or the savings account, and then how much it would grow. And yeah, you could probably still get the ice cream cone, but how about let's go, not just get the cone, let's get a gallon of ice cream, because it lasts longer than just one cone, because it's the same price.
That's it.
The
right.
cone is
I
the
know
same
here
we
have Cold Stone, right? Cold Stone is expensive. So, see, I do good in that area, but I like my own cooking, so that's my problem. Right?
Yeah.
I save money in, by doing that, but then I enjoy my own food, so I have to know how to limit myself. But
I got the whole thing of Haagen-Dazs. I got the whole from Sam's Club today. I bought the whole, and so whenever that moment hits, and you just won't, because I bought it in bulk. And I didn't go pay how much, $5 for one Haagen-Dazs at the QT at the convenience store. I got my whole box myself, and there we go.
Yeah, I couldn't let the evening end without you sharing that. And I just want to say to folks who are listening in now, who are joining us, or who will look at the recording, a lot of times we hear things, it's something we want to do or we're thinking about doing, and make the call, send a message. Janelle is the truth. I don't get paid to say this, right? I don't say it because I love her. She's the truth. She is the truth. And we have to stop delaying what's critical and instantly doing what's not important, right? So you don't want it to be, I should have, and then tomorrow you're hit with a situation, or 6 months down the line we're hit with situations, and damn, if I would have made the call, or if I would have sent the message, what's the worst that could happen? And this is not a plug, because Janelle wasn't even going to go there if I didn't mention it. This is me talking to you, whoever's here or will be here, because I'm talking to myself. So as I said, I'm always going to make myself vulnerable. If I'm going to show up here, I'm going to show up as who I really am, and don't delay, because you will hit a situation where you're now scrambling because you don't have your stuff in order, and it doesn't have to be that way. We got to do better. You hear my ebonics? We got to do better.
We got to do better. I totally agree. And, into my family, who's lost a loved one this week. And, I just, my heart goes out to my family who's lost a loved one unexpectedly, a mom, young. And I was just like, you just never know, and all of my friends who, I've lost last month and the month before that, who I didn't know had a diagnosis. And you want to take care of yourself now. And you want to be here for your loved ones, because we love you, and truly, knowing that you could have done something different in your lifestyle to stress less, to pay attention to what the doctor said about your health. It really, truly, will help you, be here longer and spend more time with your loved ones. And making those decisions early is very important. Making them early, because I'll never forget. You don't want to be making these decisions when when you don't know that you're not going home from the hospital.
Wow.
You don't want to wait to sign that will when you get home from the hospital. You know, you don't want to wait to, put that estate plan in order because after you buy the house, or and you want to put everything together now, for your family, and you want to share with them now. You want to have it in black and white for sure. I'll never forget, I called a friend of mine. He just turned 70 a couple months ago, and I was like, the worst thing that I met him, and his mom had just passed away in their home, that his childhood home he grew up in, and he moved back into his childhood home, and he turned 70. He's having some ailments, and I'm like, I'm single, no kids, and I'm like, I'm checking on you, and I hadn't got a response from the text message. So all of your loved ones, especially your single friends who may not have a child taking care of them, may not have a caregiver. I'm so grateful and thankful to know that his brothers, he's moved in with his brother, and his brother's taking care of him now. And he was falling. And I said, make sure you go get your heart checked out. And just that he doesn't have any he probably doesn't have heart problems, but I'm like, make sure you go get your heart checked out, because he was falling for no reason. And it's just like, check on your single friends, check on the people who live alone. And I must say that, because I found out, I said, well, what about your house that your mom left? Because she had paid for it, it was paid for, and nice area. And he says, oh yeah, I gave it to my other brother. Because he had a different dad. And he said, oh, I gave it to my other brother. He never had a house in his lifetime. I said, you did? Oh, that's wonderful. That's great. And that's what I'm talking about. Go ahead and make those decisions. He's like, my brother never had a house. There you go.
How about that? My
Okay.
brother never ate this steak before, this type of steak. So I took him to dinner. We're talking about a house. And that's the thing. When we start handling our business, we're leveraging not just for ourselves, but for our families. And we get to live a lifestyle that other people may be living that we think is not reachable. Mm-hmm. But it's simply because we took the small steps and we became educated, right? Yes. If you're not educated, say you don't know. And then get with some people who do know. That's what I do. That's how I'm leveling up right now, later in life.
You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with
Janel. I hang with Janel Pulley. I hang with Coach Dino. I hang with some other folks, all right? Come on, you got to surround yourself with people that can help you elevate.
Level up, level up, level up. More in 2024. With that being said, Yolanda, thank you so much for this great conversation. We encourage you to be, do, and have the greatness that you desire, because the greatness is where? The greatness is in you. Take care. God bless everyone. And we'll see you next week for another edition of Financial Power Fridays Live.
Yes. Good night, everyone.